Welcome to the Girl Out of Order podcast, Keisha.
You.
I am so honored to have you here, and I can't wait for our listeners to get to know you, to get to know how you built your dream, and then give them some takeaways so they can go after those crazy dreams too. So, if I were to ask you, and you had one opportunity to introduce yourself to the world, who do you say that Keisha Watkins is?
Well, I would say that Keisha Watkins is a mother, a daughter, a sister, and also a woman that has dreams and doesn't let anything stop her. So, I had a crazy dream after my husband and I's wedding in 2011 that I wanted to create the same kind of space that we had for our wedding for other couples to enjoy their family and friends for their wedding. So you don't always have to give up one thing to get another. We've been able to do it simultaneously and just take the next step. I would just say take one step at a time, move towards your dream. As long as you keep moving, you'll get there. So now my husband and I have Wrenwood Ranch, which is a 14-acre private boutique property in the Texas Hill Country. And we also have a space on site, and we've built it all by ourselves, one step at a time.
So that's the end product. And the end product, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I will see people's end product and it seems so fabulous and it feels out of reach. And so what I'd like you to do is kind of rewind a little bit and take us back to where you were when you had your sort of aha wedding moment and paint a picture of what you saw. I believe it was in California, and how it moved you and how that impacted this dream that you've now built. So take us back.
Okay. So back in 2011, when we were looking at our upcoming wedding, I really wanted something different and something special and unique that spoke to me and us as a couple and a family. So I had a 10-year-old daughter at the time, and I really wanted it to be more of an experience with our family and friends. I wanted it to be a weekend, like a family reunion with a wedding mixed in there, throw in some coworkers and friends. And I love outside. So when I found the place and I'm walking up to this property in the hills of California, and it's just these huge green trees with the blue sky and the white fluffy clouds and the gravel that you walk along, it just brought me good feelings. And being outside in nature makes me grounded. So for me, I was like, okay, this is what I want. So we go through the wedding. We have the amazing opportunity, and it was perfect and wonderful. And I had so many people say, wow, we'd really like to do something like this. If I could do it all over again, I would have it outside, or I would do a full weekend. And so it just kind of got those wheels turning. And we would think about it on the back porch while we were having coffee in the morning and just say, what if we could create that? And then, time goes by, work gets busy, life happens, and then something, you're triggered. We go to another friend's wedding and it's like, wait, we still had that idea. I'm still pulled to this. And so it took a bunch of years. It took till 2020 when during that time, you do a lot of research. We were researching property, how to do this, the types of buildings, what state you could do it in, just an immense amount of research. And I can tell you, no matter how much research we gathered, when we actually found our property, decided on the state, got to the place, there was still a whole book of things we didn't know that we had to learn, or they were different than what we had learned. But at least we had a starting point.
So you said a couple of really powerful things in there, and this is what I want the woman who's listening to hear. It took a bunch of years. And I can relate so much to that because, we've been able to have some much deeper talks recently. And I have this really clear dream of speaking on stages around the world. I can see it in my mind's eye. I honestly don't at this point know how to get from here to there, but that dream is crystal clear. And so what I want the listener to hear in Keisha's story is that just because a dream feels really big, if it's clear and it wakes you up and it keeps coming back, listen to those nudges, because I truly believe that's the universe calling to you. Would you agree?
Yes. And knowing that you don't have to know it all to get started. You just have to put one foot in front of the other, answer one question that's in front of you, then move on to the next question.
Absolutely. And you know, your daughter was 10 at the time you got married. So that was this is where I think there's so many women out there that have this dream, but then they kind of get their shoulders slumped because it feels so far off. And just realizing that dreams start with a germinating seed, right? She was 10 at the time. How old is your daughter now?
24.
She's 24. And Wrenwood Ranch is still developing, but it took how many years before you actually took the big plunge? How many years? You said it was 2020?
Yes, it took about, let's see, 9 years from when we got married to when we decided to make a go of it.
And there was some, but just so, and I know this from talking with you, it wasn't like we had a dream, we did nothing for 9 years except maybe research. No, you tried some other things along the way, right?
Yes, we invested money in another company that didn't end up working out the way that we wanted it to. And one of the things that I learned from, I'm sure you've read a lot of books and attended a lot of seminars as well, is that nobody ever makes it all the way to the top without a failure. Like, how many successful people have gone through bankruptcy or lost everything and they build
Mhm.
it back up? I'm thankful we didn't go to that extreme, but we lost, a big chunk of money. But I don't consider it, well, it's what other people would consider lost. It was a huge,
Mhm.
and that was an education. We got a college education on what not to do in a business.
I love that so much. And I don't want that to fly by because we're talking about this beautiful culmination of your dream, which I can't wait to get to that. And so I'm chomping at the bit. But I really want to speak to that woman who is listening and thinking, I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to lose money. Can you speak to that woman? Because you said something so important that the vast majority of big successes and smaller successes, but people we would say that's a successful person has had some flops along the way. So can you speak to that woman who is clinging to her comfort zone? What would you tell her?
Yes, for me it wasn't necessarily a comfort zone. I still had to be smart with my money. I still had a daughter to provide for and maintain a home and safety and those kind of things. So we chose to live our life and save our money living below the means of what we could have lived in order to do these new adventures without risking the safety and security of our home and our child's well being. So I think you have to also gauge your risks against what you want to go after because
Mm-hmm.
it's not a failure. I can tell you personally, I have gotten two really great educations at the price of $100,000 twice so far in my life. These
Hmm.
education lessons I've learned have cost me $100,000 twice. And what I know is money. You can always make more money. There's always more money out there. And I learn best through making a mistake or getting something wrong because once I learn how to correct it, I won't make that mistake again.
That's so powerful. And one of the teachers in our TLC was talking to me about this project that I wanted to launch, and I was hand wringing and fretting. And she's like, if you don't fail forward, you're not doing it right. And so it's so much about how we talk about risk and how we talk about failure, because that word failure it's like we give it too much power. Because if you've learned, if you've grown, if you've moved forward, is it really a failure, or are you attaching a word that has an ugly meaning to a process that has to unfold to get you where you want to go?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. When we were building these cottages, I don't know the first thing about construction. Someone hands me a nail gun and gives me all the do's and don'ts, and I'm like, I don't, okay. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll tell you, after I put four boards on upside down and then had to take the nails out and redo it, I'm very careful the way I put the board on now because I don't want to go back through and pull all those nails out and redo it. But it's just a lesson, it's just a learning. I didn't fail at using the nail gun, what I didn't know. So I
That's
just
so
need.
powerful. I didn't know what I didn't know. And you and I are pretty immersed in the personal development world, and not every listener is. When you're immersed in the personal development world, you forget how rare it is out in the regular world or the non-personal development world, how regular it it isn't for most folks to understand that it's about taking messy action. It's about being afraid and doing it anyway. Those are things you and I have kind of drummed into our head because we've done the work. We've taken the seminars, we've applied the teachings, but a lot of people don't think that way because they're holding so tightly to security that they're not willing to put the proverbial boards on upside down or backwards. And so you are such a picture of being willing to take uncomfortable action, to take messy action, and put those boards on upside down and learn. And so you alluded to it, which I don't think we've even gotten to yet. And I really want you to tell the story of how you built Wrenwood Ranch because it's extraordinary. It's unusual because you didn't hire a bunch of contractors to build your dream. You and Chad, your beloved husband, you guys had a dream to build this ranch, but you freaking built the ranch. So tell our listeners how this unfolded from when you found the property to when you dug that first hole, and then you paint that picture.
Well, I think it's really funny that you say that because we keep a bedside story in our cottages
If
that
you're watching this on YouTube, she's showing us the coolest book.
tells the story of how we built it and what it looked like when we arrived. And
Wow.
there's a whole story, but to sum it up, I don't want to ruin it. So when they come visit, they got to read the book.
There you go.
But we basically drove through Texas to find the area that we might want to do this in, knowing restrictions, county rules, taxes, all the things. We did our homework and we found this area of the Texas Hill Country and just fell in love with it. So we went searching for properties and he gave us 23. The realtor came up with 23 properties. Well, while we were in the car driving to the first property, with the knowledge we had already gained, we were able to whittle it down to just two properties, two
Oh,
options.
wow.
But like I like to say, I've always said, God, if you open the door, I'll walk through it as long as you keep showing me which doors I need to walk through. So we went and looked at both of the properties and it was a no brainer which one we picked. I mean, it was like he just said, here you go. This is your place. So
Wow.
when we arrived, for a while we were going back and forth. I was still working in California and Chad was here, but it was 14 acres of trees. Basically, there was no driveway, there was no access path, there was just an easement. And slowly but surely, every day with a chainsaw and some snake boots, we cut down trees and cleared a pathway so we could get vehicles in here. And then we would, at first, we rented a wood chipper to chip the wood because we didn't have any place we could burn it. And then slowly
Mm.
but surely, we would get open spaces where we could burn the wood instead of, I don't know if you've ever used a wood chipper, but it slaps those trees around and it will kick your butt.
Yikes.
So just slowly but surely cleared enough property. Had a mentor come down. Charlie's uncle came down. Charlie's uncle, Chad's uncle Charlie
Got
came
it.
down and he talked us through building the first cottage. Now, at this time, Chad and I are living in a 230 square foot travel trailer with a dog. And at that time, we didn't have plumbing. We had just gotten electricity and we were just getting our well dug. So we
Wow.
know what it's like to work hard without all the simple pleasures in life. And then as we kept building, we got the first one done. Great. Got it ready, posted it on the vacation sites, and then we immediately started in on the second one. We just did the same thing over and over again. And
Hmm.
we each build, we learned something different. We had different supply issues. This is 2020. This is COVID.
Right.
One week we couldn't get PVC pipe. And it was just a juggling match, but our dream was big enough and our reason was big enough and we were so driven to do it. That's what made us get up every day and just put in the work.
So I don't want to fly by that either. What you just said, our dream was big enough. Our reasons were big enough. And what I want the listener to hear is when your why compels you, then distractions blend into the background. Because I was going to ask you what year it was, because I thought it was the COVID year. And listen up, people. If this woman can build cottages by hand from scratch in the middle of COVID, where it was almost impossible sometimes just to get toilet paper, let alone construction supplies, we don't have any excuses. And and you had your eyes so fixed on the culmination of your dream that I would imagine that was the thing that kept you going on those days where self-doubt was creeping in.
Well, I think one thing to understand, or one thing that I've realized, is the why can change. My
Hmm.
initial why when we moved out here was basically to prove it to all the people that said it. So once we got the first cottage up and running, I told Chad, I said it from this point on, whatever happens on this property, whatever we build, whatever we do, we did it. The first cottage is up. We've hosted our first guest. We made the dream a reality.
Hmm.
And so you have to celebrate that success. And then my why evolved. Okay, great. We did one. Well, let's see if we made a few more and then a group of people could come enjoy the ranch and have a good time together. Okay, what if we could do a huge celebration on the ranch and have even
Hmm.
more people? The common goal is the same for people to have a place outside the city, surrounded by nature with the comforts of home. That never changed. But my reasons for why I want to do it or where I see us going now, that evolves as you evolve.
So, what would you say your why is now?
Oh, my why definitely is now. I love seeing, like, my whole goal is for people to have more experiences with people that they love and cherish in
Hmm.
person. We have so much social media and so much technology. And I just, when we moved here, before we moved to Texas, we had an amazing neighborhood where we would sit out on our driveways with our lawn chairs and have dinners together and just watch the kids
Hmm.
sit and talk. And when you move somewhere like this that's out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have those neighbors. So I
Right.
still want to have that community. I like walking to the laundry room and seeing my guests drinking coffee on the porch. Hey, good morning. How are you? Where are you from? What are you doing today? We don't have a lot of that when you're not in a neighborhood. And
Hmm.
also for, if you don't have a job with coworkers outside of this 14-acre ranch, there's not a lot of interaction.
Right. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that because Chad does not go to an office. He does not work outside the ranch, correct?
Correct. He's
And
here.
you are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he's here 24/7 taking care of everything.
And then you are still working as an ICU nurse, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have that time. Like, I have my coworkers I get to joke with, vent to, bounce ideas off. I have that social interaction. But for Chad, we have to make it a point to get out and go to places and do things. I mean, he has to make the effort to do that. And then we go together because otherwise it's just him and the animals here.
I can relate. I'm in a neighborhood, but I work at home, and it's me and my animals most of the day. Now that I'm an empty nester, it is definitely quite isolating. So I love the hospitality piece and the connective piece. We are very connected to our TLC sisters, but a lot of times it's on screen or we're having phone calls, and it's beautiful, and I'm grateful. And when you are sitting to eyeball with another human being in their energy, it's next level. It's just next level. And so currently, how many cottages have you and Chad built on your property?
So we have 7 cottages for guests. And then we built when our daughter decided she was moving here as well, we had about 4 months to build another house for us to move into so she could move into the trailer in the meantime. So we do now have a small 2-bedroom home that will eventually be another cottage for our guests to rent.
I love that. So that gets me excited for you to tell the story of your daughter's wedding, because you then took this beautiful getaway and you're like, you know what? We're just going to take it up a notch. And you built a wedding venue, didn't you?
Yes. So we had the 7 cottages, but that pool was always there. I still want to do my event space. I still want to do the venue. And we were at one of the TLC events or on a TLC phone call. I'm pretty sure we were at an event. And it was like, what's holding you back? You need to just do it.
When it comes to pushing us out of our comfort zone. But it can be those 2 millimeter shifts that are uncomfortable. It can be making that phone call to ask that person out or confront that parent that you need to let go of stuff, and you need to confront some trauma, and you need to just say, hey, I'd like a relationship with you, but here's what's blocking me. That's scary. It's just about, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live a small, safe, maybe stuck life, but you're safe, but you're small? Or do you want to live a big life, an expansive life, a life full of growth? And then it leads to contribution, right? Because if we aren't growing, the chances of us contributing to the world, to our families, to our dreams, to our mission, to our friends, to ourselves, a lot smaller. And so it's about those 2 millimeter shifts. It doesn't even have to be the big scary things. And what is also true, if you want to prepare to do a big scary thing, start doing a little bit scarier and a little bit scarier. I can't tell you the number of times, Keisha, I have gotten ready to do something and I want to talk myself out of it. I'm like, lady, you jumped off a telephone pole. Like, what are you afraid of? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. All right, close my eyes and jump, and trust that the dream, trust that the mission is going to be there to support the experience.
Yes. I mean, it's the same as Chelsea teaching us to flip the camera and be yourself on social media. It doesn't all have to
Mm-hmm.
be perfect. That's very scary for some people to not have everything orchestrated perfectly with the perfect hair and the perfect outfit. That could be your scary thing. Just making a video of you on a normal day, just pushing your
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone. It doesn't have to be a huge scary thing. There's a lot of things that cause more fear than jumping off a telephone pole. Like you said, it could be that
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Mm-hmm. It could be hiring the counselor to address your childhood trauma. It could be taking the stage. It could be whatever it is for you. I believe that people listening to this podcast did not come on here to be comforted. They came on here to be pushed and reminded of what they're capable of and what beautiful, compelling life awaits if they're willing to fully embrace themselves and push themselves to the next level. And that's what you've done. And it's beautiful and it's inspiring, Keisha.
Yes, and you as well. I mean, you have your business, you have your job, you still have your personal development and your groups, and you have this podcast, and you are also pushing yourself further. So I honor you and appreciate you for that. And your ability to see special qualities in other people that you can then introduce to more people. I highly appreciate that. And thank
Hmm.
you for, inviting me on this podcast.
I received that. And this is a question I have for you that just occurred to me. I wanted to ask it earlier, but the timing is perfect. I'm doing all these things and I'm still wrestle with the shitty committee. I still wrestle with a sense of self-doubt. And we talked about this yesterday. I still find myself fall into comparison trap of like, "Oh, I thought I'd be further along. Oh, well, she's now doing the thing I said I was going to be doing." It want to caution anybody listening that just because you see somebody doing great things doesn't mean they aren't a human being with human struggles. So my question to you is, can you give an example or two of when you were building Wrenwood Ranch and you came into a challenge that felt somewhat insurmountable or just really scary? Just give us an example so people can walk through, because you went from like, we're clearing trees, we got all these cottages, hey, we had a wedding, but a lot of years in there. So what's a challenge that you went through and how did you navigate it?
There's so many. Well, let's start with one of the basics at the beginning. When we were moving here, we knew that we couldn't afford to rent a place and, pay the mortgage on the property and have the money to do everything. So we decided to live in a travel trailer. I've never owned a travel trailer. My family didn't own a travel trailer. We didn't go camping. I knew nothing about said travel trailer.
Probably a
But
good
we,
thing.
yeah, I don't think I would have done it if I had known. So we were like, okay, we can do this. We can live in this trailer. So we go down to like an RV center, right? And we purchased one of the smallest trailers we thought we could live in for what we thought was going to be 3 to 6 months. So we purchased this small trailer, and then we flew back down here to pick up the trailer to officially move here once the trailer came in. So we show up at the RV place and we can't tow our RV with our vehicle.
Oops.
Right? So, how are we going to get this from there to here? And we had to fly out back to California the next day after we were supposed to pick it up. So I consider myself very resourceful and I was like, okay, I can do this. So we ended up, renting a truck that we could then pull the RV to the property, and then we could take that truck back to the airport to catch our flight. Problem solved. So we pick up the RV, we bring it back to the property. It is like 1 a.m. when we get back here. Oh no, that was when we came back. We get the trailer here, we fly to California, we pack up all our crap, and we physically move here with our U-Haul. Pull into the driveway, it's 1 a.m. We'd been driving for like 18 hours that day.
Woo.
But we got this trailer, we got a place to stop and sleep, right? Walk in the trailer. It is 90 degrees in the trailer at 1 a.m. with no power, no water, no nothing. That very first night in the trailer, the mattress is 4 inches thick. I'm standing in the kitchen area trying to make a breeze with all the windows open, no breeze, just 90 degrees. And I looked at Chad and I said, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I want to do this.
Little too late at that point.
Yeah, we were stuck. So, I mean, you have time. We've had so many times during this project where I've been like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Or, something happens that trips you up and then your plan isn't going as planned. We lived in that trailer for 2 years. That was not our plan.
No, I think you said 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, 2 years was not on the agenda.
I'm assuming you eventually got power so that you didn't have, no, okay, good. I
Yeah,
just had to check.
it's kind of funny. We drove up to Dallas and borrowed a generator from his uncle that next day, drove it back here. So that's a 12-hour trip, 6 hours up there, back, to find out that we had the wrong plug. So we finally have a generator. We don't have to sweat, but we can't plug it in. And of course, it's 10 o'clock at night. So we got to wait another day to go get. There's been hiccups along the way, but you figure it out. And we had enough fire in our belly that I was not giving up over an air conditioner.
I love that. And that leads perfectly into my next question because, you said we this, we that, everything's been a we. What would you say is one of the top, it doesn't have to be the top, but one of the top lessons or gifts that you have gotten out of this for your marriage in building this joint dream? Because this is pretty unusual.
Yes. And I'd like to start with saying it doesn't have to be your spouse. You need that one person that no matter what is your ride or die, no matter who it is. It's not always going to be the spouse, right?
Mm.
Biggest cheerleader. I am blessed that it is my spouse. And I'm also blessed, and it has taught me many lessons. We are completely different. When
Hmm.
I'm going over the edge on something, he's like, yeah, that's not a big deal. Or when he is on the ledge about something, to me, it's not a big deal. It's great that we have both sides of those stories and both perspectives. And I have to remind myself, I married him for these things that he has and these qualities that are different from me, even
Hmm.
though there's instances every week where I'm just like, could you just not do that or not be that way? Like, I loved it about you when I married you, and now it's making me crazy.
That just makes you human, Keisha.
Yeah, and just learning to respect the differences and remember this is a reason why I love him. One of the things I love about him, if we were the same people with the same ideas on the same page, we wouldn't have the ability to do what we do.
Yeah. And it wouldn't work. So would you say that having this joint dream has brought the two of you closer?
Yes. And I think another thing that we've had to learn is we turned into business partners and we turned into
Mm.
coworkers while we were building. I felt like he was my contractor and I was his employee, but it was a lot of how I was framing it and how I was thinking about it. He
Mm.
never thought of himself as my boss, but in all reality, when you I showed up to the job site, I didn't know what to do. He had to tell me or teach me or show me, but I
Mhm.
was categorizing that as he's the boss of me instead of just being like, okay, he's going to teach me something. And then, a lot of our conversations over dinner and breakfast all were business related. But I also had to understand that that's all he had to talk about for a long
Mhm.
time because he's here 24/7. That was his job. That was what he was spending his brain power on. And so, that's something we've had to navigate of not losing our relationship and who we are as individuals along with who we are in business and in the company.
I love that. Yeah. Because a lot of people, when they think about going into any kind of business or any kind of venture with their spouse, it's like, ooh, that sounds like that could be a real problem. But it's been very cool to see how it's brought the two of you together and also revealed. You said something that's so important, and as a divorce attorney, I'm always looking for healthy marriage situations and healthy realizations. And one of the things you said that was so healthy is you remind yourself that the things that are annoying you now are the reasons you married him. And so when you're going into business, or it could be with a friend, the reasons that I picked you as my ride or die bestie is because you had these things. It's driving me crazy now because we're in a cauldron of newness. We're in a cauldron of challenge. We're in a cauldron of literally not living in our comfort zone. And it's in those moments, if we can shift our perspective, it's so grounding. And then we can move through it and get to the other side. And I love that. So I had a question that flows from that. And I want you to just reflect for our listeners as you look back on this dream, and then this dream from back in 2000, I think you said 2014, or I believe you said when you get married. 2011 we got married. That's when the dream just started to be this little germ. And then in 2020, crazy timing, you take this new, right? You take this plunge. Since you look back and you really started working on this dream, what are, I don't know, two or three transformations that you made in your personhood? Like whether it's in your identity or in your character qualities or a shift in your values. What are two to three just big things that this project has transformed in you as a woman?
I'm still working on it, but changing my expectations for appreciations is a big
Mhm.
one. And patience and understanding that when things aren't working the way I want them to work, or they're just not right, something's not happening the way we planned on it, is to just slow down and sit with it. There's a
Mm.
reason it's not happening. There's something that I don't know that is causing this shift. And instead of me being frustrated and wanting to control it and make things happen, it's learning how to just sit back and just wait. You still want to move your feet, you're not just going to sit there and
Mhm.
wait for everything to happen, but there is a time to just be still.
Mm.
And I would say the third thing is I've always been a bath girl, right? I take a bath every night. Those 2 years in the trailer that I didn't have a bathtub, realizing how important that is to me. There's certain things that I still need to do for myself, my soul on a daily basis that just ground me and help me take care of me no matter what the work is for the day. And so it's just remembering and valuing those certain rituals that you have for yourself
Mm.
and realizing the importance of those.
That is so beautiful. Those are incredible insights. And these changes happened as you were building your dream. And that's the cool thing that I needed to hear, frankly, for myself. And I wanted to highlight one thing you said because we've heard Lauren teach this, and she teaches it in the context of having maybe a difficult interaction with somebody, or you're just somebody like something's just not gelling. Or even in our conversation yesterday, when we first got to know each other, we didn't gel. And that happens. And if you can just stop and ask a question instead of make a statement either out loud or to yourself, instead of doing that, ask a question, maybe, or I guess it's a statement or a question. Is there something I don't know? Or maybe there's something I just don't know. And it's this permission to relax into the experience or relax into the interaction or relationship. Maybe there's something I don't know about why this person shows up that way. I'll get curious about it. And as we build a dream or as we take a chance on ourselves or we start pursuing a mission or a calling in our heart, be curious, ask questions, because then you start to get the coolest answers.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I have to catch myself making assumptions or judgments about people when I first meet them or have an interaction with them. And that just naturally happens, but I really have to stop myself and ask that same question. What don't I know?
Mm-hmm.
Because 9 out of 10 times, there's people you've probably been friends with for years and there might be something they do that you just don't understand,
Right.
but you also don't know the story behind. And they may not be willing to share it with you. So, can you just love them and appreciate them for where they are and how they've decided to deal with whatever those situations are, maybe in the way they present themselves? It's
Yeah.
okay.
It transforms your experience of the person or your transforms your experience of the dream if we get curious and we ask questions. And then, importantly, we shut up and listen for the answers. Because as an attorney and a litigator, I ask a lot of questions, but then I freaking answer my own damn questions. And then I miss the opportunity to get the wisdom that's waiting if I would just be quiet and listen.
2 ears, one mouth for a reason. We all have to remember that.
Right? Absolutely. All right. Well, I have one final question for you, Keisha. And it's a question that I ripped off from my favorite podcaster. And she got it from a poet named Barbara Brown Taylor. And it's just such a beautiful question that I ask myself from time to time. And you can answer it however you want. You can be funny, you can be serious, but just don't overthink it. As you sit here today, what is saving your life right now?
What is saving my life right now? Just acceptance. acceptance of where I am right now, what's going on right now, the stage I'm in, just accept me just the way I am right now.
I love that. That is a perfect answer. And really, to me, shows why you've been able to do this. Because if you have this posture of acceptance, then the next challenge with the cottage or the next challenge on social media or the next challenge in a relationship, you accept that this is happening for a reason. And then you get curious and start asking questions. That's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Girl Out of Order podcast. Tell our listeners where they can find out more about Keisha and Wrenwood Ranch.
All right. Well, Wrenwood Ranch, first of all, is spelled with a W. So our website is www.wrenwood, WRENWOOD, ranch.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. The best way is to just go to the website and check it out and come book your stay here at Wrenwood Ranch or your next retreat, event, whatever kind of fun gathering you want to have at the Legacy Building.
I love that. And I am so excited because I've already secured my spot at Wrenwood Ranch in November for our TLC gathering. I was like, how fast can I pay my deposit? Because I am staying at this beautiful place. All right. I love you so much, sister. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I love you too.